There are no shortcuts to getting highly coveted press coverage for your brand, only smart cuts like the DIY PR project. Learn how to grow your brand's credibility with PR on a budget with me by your side. This program is your all-in-one membership with expert training, customizable templates, and a supportive community to cheer you on every step of the way. Join us and start growing your business with free publicity today. Sign up now at diy-pr.com. We're told to be strong as mothers, as founders, as women, but what if true strength doesn't come from pushing through, but from being deeply supported? In today's episode of Grow Your Wealth, I'm joined by Erica Manto Paulson, co-founder of Nurture and a passionate childbirth educator, certified doula, and doula trainer with 20 plus years of experience and more than 1,000 births under her belt. From the delivery room to the boardroom, Erica unpacks the importance of emotional, physical, and community support, often lacking for women, not just for mothers, but for all women, navigating change, growth, and leadership. We explore how the principles of doula care mirror what so many women in business are craving: emotional safety, non-judgmental support, advocacy, and the reminder that we don't have to do it all alone. Erica introduces us to the concept of birth with ease and shows us how that mindset can transform the way that we build our families and our businesses. Whether you're a mother, an entrepreneur, somewhere in between, or all of the above, this episode invites you to reimagine the way that we move through challenge and change, not with more hustle, but with more help. Here is Erica. Erica, welcome to the Grow Your Wealth podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's such a pleasure. I know we are in for such a treat today. Erica, first kick us off. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into childbirth education, and more as the co-founder of Nurture.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was 20 years ago. What really got me into the work that I'm doing is my own experience of becoming a mother. So I had a doula after the birth of my second child, which was a VBAC, and that was a transformational birth experience for me. And it inspired me to become a doula myself. And then I became a childbirth educator, also a doula trainer, and a clinical hypnotherapist. And now we own Nurture, which is a perinatal women's center in Cincinnati that seeks to provide a full circle of nurturing support for women during their childbearing journey.
That's amazing. And Erica, if you wouldn't mind kind of filling us in a little bit more for those listening who might not be familiar with what a doula is, because I know in our research we uncovered together that only about 6% of families leverage the support of a doula during their transition into parenthood. So there's a lot of people out there who either don't know what a doula does or have not used one to this date. Fill us in. What is a doula? What do they do? What kind of benefit is it providing for a new mother, especially?
Well, doulas represent the non-clinical care on your birth support team. So we know what medical care is. That's your doctor, your midwives, your nursing staff. But we understand that giving birth is more than just a medical experience. And for many women, it might be their first experience in a hospital setting. For many women, it's also their first time going to the hospital when they're healthy. Most of the time we're going into a clinical setting, it's because we're there, something's wrong, we need something addressed. Whereas when you're having a baby, you're choosing that as a safe and healthy place to have your baby. So you need the medical care. That's an important part of your care team. But we also need to recognize the experience of the mother who's giving birth, how she feels in that space, how she is perceiving the care that she receives. Again, many women are going in as healthy patients, and so their desire is to leave as healthy patients. And in the 20 years that I've been a doula, they have done studies now that show women who have doula support during their pregnancy have fewer C-sections, shorter lengths of labor, fewer medical interventions, improved postpartum time. So this shows us what I think most women know, is that how we feel inside our bodies when we're having a baby, the experience of feeling like we're understanding the care that we are receiving, that we're supported in our decision-making process. This is all part of non-clinical care. So that would be informational support, helping women understand and prepare for the place where they're going to give birth. So doulas know all of the different birthing spaces in the area. We typically don't work at one because we're working for the couple that we are supporting. So we can help them prepare for whatever space that they're going into. We're helping them to plan ahead for what natural comfort measures might be available to them, what might be something that they want to talk about with their provider before they get there. A lot of it is about planning, preparing, demystifying the process. I think there's few things that are so impactful that we do in our life without a lot of planning. Like if you are going to take a trip somewhere that you have always wanted to go to this special place and you've booked your tickets and you're ready to go, you're going to want to find out as much as you can about that area, where to go, where not to go, what guides to find to help you, especially if it's a very foreign space for you. So that's kind of what we are as doulas, was we're demystifying that process, but we're also bringing our understanding of the normal physiologic childbirth to the whole process. And we're helping you to understand stages and phases of labor, best positioning, to support that progress and the flow of your labor, hands-on natural comfort measures. So non-clinical care spans everything from informational support to emotional support and then physical support as well.
Wow, that is a lot. And some of this also starts before a woman is in labor and delivery, right, too. It's just so interesting. One of the big reasons why I really wanted to have you on the podcast is, as we talk about building a business, especially building a business without burnout, a common trend that I see with so many, especially female entrepreneurs, is we have trouble asking for help. Even if we get over this hurdle about asking for help in our businesses, usually it's our personal lives is where we struggle to ask for help the most. So let's talk a little bit about that support system too, that you are building. It's not just about, right, walking into the L&D and having your doula there ready for you. What are some of the measures that you're working on with these women, even prior to giving birth? You talk about a bit about the planning. Could you kind of walk us through what that looks like and how we can kind of empower ourselves before we even get to the point where, baby's on the way?
Yeah. So as far as women not asking for help, I feel like a common reason for that is they know that they can do it better than most people. So it's not that they can't ask for help or that they, are scared or, I think sometimes that can be framed in a way that feels like, oh, I just have this, need to do everything myself. And often it's not that women want to do everything themselves. They struggle to know where to find the right type of support because they know this birth is a big deal. This is her body. This is it's going to affect her career, her relationship with her partner, other family members, friends, her community. It's a really big deal. So when it comes to kind of handing off some tasks to somebody and, getting the support that they need, they might take on more because they're like, no, I just need to do this myself because it's a big deal and I don't really know who else to ask. So that's really where we step in because everything that we do centers around that childbearing journey. We're experts in our field. We provide support physically, massage, yoga, classes, everything to support the body is a big part of preparing for childbirth because giving birth it's not just a physical event. It's a mind-body experience. So when we support the body, when we support the calm, and when our professionals can show up in their expertise and women can be confident that that care that they're receiving is going to benefit them, first of all, it just kind of helps them to feel calm. It helps them to feel
Mhm.
safe. It helps them to know, okay, this is trusted support. These people have done their homework. They're certified. They're credentialed. They're prepared to not, I can turn my brain off, basically. We want moms to be like, look, we got it. We want to hit you to hit the easy button. And we've got that part. We understand that whole childbearing journey that you're about to embark on. And we, first of all, want to just empower you with some options and access to those options. Let us help you know, here's what's available to you. And if you have questions about those, we can go through all of the benefits of why or why not you might want to partake in some of those. And then the classes, that's about preparing mentally, that informational support. But we can't just prepare mentally. We have to prepare the body. So she has to feel calm and confident and supported inwardly and outwardly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that as well, because I think I remember before I had my first, calm was not the word I was thinking about going into
Yeah.
having a baby for the first time. Since you have witnessed and supported more than 1,000 births throughout your career, not to mention training doulas and, the number of births that you're touching through your training with them, what are some of the you said demystifying. I'm curious, what that means as well. What are some of these misconceptions that people might have about doulas? And I want to also ask you about doulas in hospital models too, because I think there could be misconceptions both from families along with medical providers. So where does the doula really fit in? Demystify that a little bit for us.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that you had some anxiety of your own
Oh,
going
so
into
much.
your birth, and you are a strong, powerful, successful woman.
Mhm.
And so all women are going to approach their birth with some amount of apprehension. And for me as a doula, I'm also asking myself, why is that? That very smart, educated, strong, competent women are scared to give birth, don't know a lot about the process, are apprehensive. Part of that, I want to credit them as their intuition. If they're looking around and their friends are having less than desirable experiences, they're going to ask themselves, how did that happen to her? And how can I support myself so that that doesn't happen to me? And I think that's where demystifying is about increasing access to those options. So it's not just telling you about where you're going to go, it's telling you about what options are available to you, helping you to know better, best time to use those options, and helping to put you back into the driver's seat when it comes to navigating your care so that you understand we're here to work for you and support you. We believe that this is your right as a woman, as a childbearing woman, to have access to these options. We trust that you have that intuitive nature in your body, your connection to your baby. If something doesn't feel right, you can ask questions and receive support. So doulas are not just for women who are having natural births or home births. I think that is a common misconception, is like, oh, if I'm not giving birth without pain medication, then I don't need a doula. But that isn't true. The studies that have been done on doula support show that even simply being present, they had a study where they showed a doula being very actively present, lots of hands-on, all kinds of natural comfort measures. And then they had a group where the doula didn't really do much other than just be there and, smile and say, I'm with you, and anything you need, I'm here. And we still saw improved outcomes in both of those cases. So what does that tell us is that when women have that companion that they know is there, kind of who's got their back, I'm here with you. And not to say that there's any reason to be apprehensive about the healthcare environment. Hopefully you've chosen a provider that you trust and a hospital staff that is absolutely going to be devoted to you having the very best experience there. But doctors and midwives and nurses can do an incredible job, and that still doesn't negate the need for that non-clinical care that your doula provides. And the studies support that. So we can see improved outcomes in those cases. And we know that women who have that continuous presence of a female whose whole job is focused on the experience that she's having in the hospital, no matter how she's giving birth, whether it's a very high risk pregnancy, and I've certainly attended many high risk pregnancies, or a very low interventive birth. Either way, though all women need that type of support, because birth is not just a physical event. We're bringing a human life into the world. You know, we've have this family that we're creating with our partners, and it's a very different aspect of healthcare than other aspects of healthcare, which are maybe focused on, again, something needing to be fixed or that's wrong or that, needs attention. This is about wellness care, and that's where the doula steps in to bridge those gaps.
Something that you mentioned too, for a lot of fellow entrepreneurs, business owners, right? We feel like we've got parts of our lives, parts of our business in control. But I think that's the thing that so many of us feel like going into, again, especially for a first time birth, this lack of control, this lack of the unknown, right? And you brought that up so beautifully with your advocacy for mothers as well, right? You've got this experience, and trust, I think, is so important because, we want to trust ourselves. We want to trust our bodies, but there's still this unknown, right? Even if you've given birth 5 times, no birth, I'm assuming, is quite the same as the last time. You just can't predict what's going to happen. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's something, even just working together, I have thought to myself, my God, how much easier it would have been, even just on my mental well-being in the labor and delivery room, to have someone there who, wasn't my mother, God bless my mom, but she had other things she was very, very focused on. Mm-hmm. Even my husband, they were worried about more of the medical side of things, but in terms of what's happening in a woman's mind, right? And like coaching her through that incredibly life-changing experience. I mean, that is, I feel like, just as essential as, having a business coach or a financial advisor, like all of these things that, when you think about that support system and, how to really support a woman during these pivotal time periods. I don't know, chatting with you, it shocks me that only 6% of women leverage somebody like a doula. And I love your philosophy too, Erica. You've coined this phrase, birth with ease, which just sounds so incredibly dreamy. What on earth does that really mean, though? Can birth truly be easy?
Yes, it can be easy. And birth with ease, though, isn't intended to imply that easy is the golden standard, mm-hmm. or that easy is what we're going for when we give birth, because giving birth to your child is a transformational event, and women are fierce when they're giving birth. So it's not a tame time of your life. It's a time of power and intuitiveness like nothing else that, I have ever experienced. And so ease is different than easy. And if we think about, and I'm a words person, so
I like it.
Kind of just me geeking out on the words a little bit, but there's something different between ease and easy. Ease suggests trust in your body, that there's a certain opening in the word ease. And there's a certain opening that happens when we trust our bodies, when we trust our support team, when we can let go of the control, the need. And the control, that isn't a bad thing. That's a need to protect yourself, protect your young, protect your child. Like, those are kind of normal maternal instincts, but we're always kind of checking in with ourselves as mothers, saying, how much do I want to credit that feeling? Do I need to respond to that? Or I do just kind of need to be like, noted, but I can continue to birth with ease because I recognize that everything here is available to me, and I feel supported. I have access to that support as I need it or want it. And I can allow this normal process to unfold that is different for me, is foreign for me. I mean, having a uterine contraction is like, you don't consciously think like, it's like, I'm going to scratch my nose. That part of your body just kind of like turns on. And that can be a little bit overwhelming when you can't make it stop and you can't make it start. But when we can kind of clear the need to micromanage those parts of ourselves that already know what they're doing, then we do start to be able to do things with ease. And I do think that this parallels other times in our life, maybe relationships, maybe the businesses that we're creating. I'm sure you could speak to that as an entrepreneur and what it takes to grow your business with ease. You know, a lot of it is like letting go of the small details, having sort of a larger, wider perspective on what, you know, what we're doing or what we're going for, that allows that process to unfold easily,
Mhm.
intuitively, with confidence, and with power. It shouldn't be a time in our life where we're shrinking and getting smaller. It should be a time in our life where we're stepping into this greatness that we probably didn't even know that we had.
Absolutely. That's so empowering. And I hope women are listening to this and, whether you've had children or want to have children in the future, right? I'm at that age where a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends have already had children. And it is really astonishing too to see how many have felt this, joy of having a child, but this disappointment
Mhm.
in the birth experience too. And so what I'm also kind of hearing from you about this birth with ease as well is that, it seems so strange, right? A healthy baby, happy baby, right? Healthy baby, happy mom. Like that's the outcome that everyone wants, but there can still be some emotion and trauma and letdown and disappointment for some women as well too. And it sounds like with this birth with ease, philosophy, there's this element of, forgive me if I'm using the wrong or right word here. It's like surrender a little bit. Like it's okay. It's okay. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing that I think so many women can benefit hearing about as well.
Yeah, I think, um, again, not to say that women are micromanaging or, you know, it's their fault. It's not their fault, because they are hearing a lot of stories from their friends. Again, we're also just coming from a pandemic where it's scary to go back into the hospital. So the need to micromanage can sound negative, but that's actually pretty intuitive. Women are very smart, and they're going to protect their bodies and their babies. And I think most of us know as mothers that healthy mom, healthy baby should be the expectation that every woman has when having a baby in the hospital, especially low risk women who are going in there as healthy patients should expect that they can leave the hospital as healthy patients. That should be the baseline norm for everybody. And as a doula, I think that we can do so much more than healthy mom, healthy baby. There's also joyful, non-traumatized for sure, empowered, excited, inspired. Those can all and should all be part of that matrescence journey to becoming a mother. And I think that might be the thing that women are like, really, though, is it possible? Is that for me? Because we're not hearing it enough. And as women are seeking out more options, as we are seeing women having and choosing doulas, and approaching their care in a different way, then I do think that we're going to see more women saying, I don't just want a healthy birth. You know, I don't just want to be a healthy, I do want that
Yeah.
one, but I believe that I can also have a lot more of that. And I think we're also seeing healthcare providers being on board with that as well. Everybody wants that person to have a better, we know we can do better with women's health. And that's our mission.
Hey there, I want to invite you to join our Grow Your Wealth community over on Slack. It's a safe space to network and connect with podcast guests, entrepreneurs, and wellness minded pros just like you. Head to growyourwealthpodcast.com/community to join us. That's growyourwealthpodcast.com/community. I look forward to seeing you over there. Let's also talk about postpartum, right? And that's we could do a whole episode on that, I'm sure, as well, too. But we are seeing more women step away from the workforce, especially post pandemic, than ever before, right? Certainly since having children, too. From your vantage point, Erica, why is this happening? And what does it reveal about our system, the support or lack of support, right? Getting women back into the workforce.
I have thought about that a lot. And I feel that women have not stepped away from the workforce. They are in a chrysalis.
Mm.
They have kind of gone under because women don't step away. Women don't decide that they just can't. They might step into a chrysalis when they're in a time of transformation and say, what do I need to do? This might not be the space for me right now, but in no way do I look around and see women throwing their hands up, stepping away, and being like, well, I guess I just have to, give up my goals, my career, my entrepreneurship because there's no support system for me. They're not doing that. They also recognize that they're raising the next generation of people. And so they understand how important the way that they live their lives are for their children. And more than anyone, they're aware of it. So maybe the rest of the world, we are reading out in the news that women returning to work is at an all-time low. And that might be true for this moment, but that is not going to be true forever. We're going to see a large uprising as women start to look around and say, you left work, we're not staying here. Our careers are important to us. Being a mother is important, but also being a woman is important. So I do think that we are going to see women asking and pushing for the options that they need. And why is this happening? Because maternity leave time, because lack of knowledgeable support. One thing that you mentioned earlier is family members, like you mentioned, you had your partner and you had your mom, and those are important people in everyone's life, but a doula isn't there to replace those family members. They're there to help them play to their strengths because that's our job, to be the doula in that space. And we do have postpartum doulas as well that specialize in the postpartum space. And so your partner or your mother is able to just be grandma. She doesn't have to be the one stepping into that provider role that a doula can provide and giving the care that a doula can give. She can just be your mom. And that helps the relationship to improve because there's not all this pressure on mom or on partner too, to be everything and to meet all of her needs and to figure all of it out. There's been too much thrust on the family. And I think it's important to bring in these professional support providers who can support the family so that when the woman returns to work, she's refreshed, she's energized, she's excited to go to work, and her family is also feeling the positivity from that transition. So you're right. We could definitely spend an entire episode talking about postpartum, but it definitely is something that I would like to see more women talking about, not just their birth experiences, but what happens when we bring the baby home.
Absolutely. I mean, arguably that's the longest time period, right? When you think about that transition, it doesn't end with birth. It all just begins with that birth experience. And my God, Erica, I remember especially with my first daughter, again, everything's up in the air when it comes to your first, but nursing her, being on my laptop, trying to pump, like all of these things, right? And, when they say, mothers are like superheroes, they can do it all. It is that invisible workload that so many people, as women, we all see it. We see each other. But I love that you kind of touched on that narrative changing a bit and, again, not being so afraid to ask for help, right? Because, as we often say, like self-care is not selfish. And I appreciate how you touched on that. Once you become a mother too, it's not like you've stopped becoming a woman or stopped becoming ambitious. In fact, my ambition only grew after becoming a mother in more ways than I can count. How does a doula also help, not just with this transition period, but how does a doula help a woman become herself again or become that better version of herself so that she can, if she has that ambition, she has that drive or just that basic desire to get back to being a woman and whether that's working or working out, whatever that looks like, where does the doula come in to be able to help support that?
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you just said. I created Nurture. Well, I became a doula after the birth of my second child. And that was after I had had a doula. My first birth didn't go exactly as planned. It wasn't a negative experience necessarily, but I knew that I wanted to have a different experience the second time. And so I had this amazing birth experience. A year later, I decided to go get my certification as a doula. And a year later, I'm building what at that time was one of the first websites. It's hard to believe that that's what it was like 20 years ago. But I remember too having my baby on my breast, clicking on my computer, trying to like build this website content while he was nursing. And at the time, kind of wondering like, is it okay, that am I taking away from this child? Because I'm also so energized to work, to be the support to other women that I had with my birth. And when I look back on that, absolutely, it was the best thing that I could have ever done. I'm so glad that I didn't stop myself from pursuing what was energizing me, what was inspiring me, and that I still had a baby on my breast. I still was, changing poopy diapers, but I was also just so driven and hungry to step into the workforce and provide this support that I was very, very passionate about. And my kids are all older now. I think, I have 4 kids of my own and 3 stepkids. So we have 7 kids together. And after I had that second baby, I had 2 more babies, and I continued to grow my business with those 2 babies. And in the time that I've been a doula, I have also been through a divorce. I have been a single mom for a while. I got remarried. I have 3 new kids. There have been several life transitions for me, but the one thing that I was holding fast to is my work as a doula, the vision and mission that is really Nurture today, because now we have Nurture here as a brick and mortar space, which we've been here for 3 years, but I've been a doula for 20 years. And I'm looking back and seeing all the times that I was the entrepreneur, pushing the envelope, questioning whether or not are my kids going to be okay. But one thing that I did, probably unknowingly, but I thankfully I have my children here to tell me, Mom, we were so proud of you. That was so inspiring. We're so glad that you did that you were a doula. But probably what they're really saying is, we're so glad you chose to do something that you loved, that you were passionate about, because they need to grow up and think that they can have that someday too, that they can go through transitions and life changes and hardship and ups and downs and be like, but I am driven by this work and this passion. And I'm also driven by being a mother, and they can coexist in that space. So for me, because I was a doula, I had access to a lot of doulas when I was having babies. So this is my long way of answering your question, that in those times that I was building my business, growing my family, going through major upheavals in my life, I had an army of women showing up at my house, cooking some food for me after I had had a baby, helping me to, put toddlers on the potty and get them in bed at night, helping me to recover, tell my story, to cry if I needed to after I gave birth, to be completely overwhelmed when I was a single mother with 4 children, wondering how I was going to keep going. And all of those doulas were my friends, and they came and they were like, you're doing this. You can do this. Just like you gave birth to these children, you are going to continue to build your business, to follow where your heart is leading you. You're intuitive, you're wise. And I was that mom that was like, okay, and looking back, that made such an impact in my life, because they really reflected what I probably knew deep down inside. When I look back, there wasn't a lot that I wasn't sure about, but certainly at the time, there were times of great doubt. And so to have women there doing the simple tasks was tremendously beneficial to me. not just because they were doing the tasks, but because they knew that those were the things that I needed done at that time so that I could rest my mind, so that I could rest my body, so that I could ease into a new transition in my life, and also so that they could honor just the space that I was in and help with things like recovery, nutritional needs, breastfeeding support. I dealt with mastitis and lots of different recovery things after the births of my children, that the doulas would come in with that type of wisdom and that type of support to help me succeed in my breastfeeding, to help recognize like your body needs to recover after birth. This is a major physical event. You cannot jump back into your life. I knew that in my brain as a mom, but I needed somebody to tell me, you're not getting out of bed right now. You can, but you're not going to, because you're not going to recover very well. You're going to rest, and I'm going to do a load of laundry for you, start some meals for you. And I'm also going to sit here and ask you, what are you eating today? How much have you had to drink today? Are you nourishing yourself today? It sounds simple, but when we are mothers, we're so driven to care for our young that if we don't have other women in our corner saying, no, you are going to care for yourself as well today, sometimes we don't. And so it can be very, very validating to have other women there saying, you're not doing the dishes, but the dishes need to be done so that you're relaxed. So I'll do the dishes. Sounds simple, but it's not. It's incredibly profound. And it's a big part of what has gotten us here for the thousands of years that women have been having babies. Surely there have been women in our kitchens saying, I've got it. You rest. This is your time of rest, because you're in a transformational period and who you are becoming really matters. And so your body needs good rest. And I'm going to support that rest with these simple things so that you can step into the greatness of who you are.
That is so unbelievably powerful. And as we sit here today, it's October. It's postpartum depression awareness month, right? Of course, people are having children all the time and experiencing these feelings, these anxieties. And, I was just taken back in a flashback moment to after having children, and things like keeping up with the dishes feel so overwhelming, right? After having a baby. And, impacted my mental health, as small and as, trivial as it sounds. Like, these things aren't just boxes to check on a list, right? Like, they really can have a profound effect on a woman's, not just physical being, but that mental load that she carries, and how that load really feels heavier. So sharing the load with people around, like in your case, I'm so glad that you mentioned that you had support as well in your journey too. Can not just make that impact, right, in the short term, but for her long term well-being. Are there any tips that you could share with us too, Erica, as we start to wrap up? Where does a woman start? For someone like me, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, when I had my kids, I had no family around, and that I couldn't rely on family, but for, a week here and there. My husband had to go right back to work. If they're feeling overwhelmed about where to begin and how to ask for help, what advice would you give her?
I would say to start by connecting with yourself. And sometimes a simple thing that we can do even at our desks is just to take a deep breath. We talk about, body breathing, where you put your hand on your chest and one down here on your abdomen, and making sure that we're not doing that fight or flight breathing where it's high, but it's like you should be able to feel your hand and your abdomen going out and in, because that's that diaphragmatic breathing that's self-regulating. So breath can be a very practical way of centering ourselves. The question, why do we need to center ourselves? Because we need to listen to ourselves. There can be a lot of dismissiveness when it comes to women asking for what they need. Everybody's quick to tell her what she needs when she's having a baby. And so she needs to pause and refuse to be dismissed. If somebody isn't listening to you, go find somebody who is. Because if you know on the inside, I'm going to need this kind of support, then get it. Don't let, and even well-intentioned partners saying, no, I got it. If you know No, you're not going to get it because I know that you're going to need support as well. And I know that I'm going to need this kind of support. It's such a small, impactful time in your life to have a baby. We will remember this for the
Mm.
rest of our lives. So put the time and invest your energy into supporting what will be one of the most impactful spaces in your life. You're worth it. You're more than worth it. Your family's worth it. Your children are worth it. Your businesses are worth it. We don't have your business, your dreams in our world if you don't support yourself, if you're at
Mm.
home overwhelmed. And we need women who are inspired to contribute in all aspects of life. We need you. The world needs you. So make this investment in yourself. Listen to yourself. Find someone who will listen and the rest will guide you. Will guide your way.
I love that. Women, we have big dreams. So do you, Erica, though. Looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of perinatal care and for the larger cultural shift you hope to see in how we really honor and support mothers in their journey?
I hope for a day that the patient's experience, the woman's experience, and a doula informed approach is integrated into all healthcare so that women can walk in the door of her healthcare space, no matter where that is, hospital, birth center, home, and have all of her options available to her without bias, and that she can be supported in exploring those options, that she would be heard, that she would not be dismissed, that she would be honored as the most important key player in this whole thing is her, and that it wouldn't be so difficult for her to find that support. So I think it should be readily available. I think it should be part of normal care. I think it should be standard and something that we can all expect. I hope that my daughters and granddaughters can walk into the door of their birthing space and have an equal opportunity to have a doula or an epidural or both, and don't have to ask themselves, how am I going to figure this out for myself? That's why we work so hard. That's the change that we hope to see in the world.
Oh, I love it. You got me fired up, Erica. Thank you so much. You and your team share some incredible stories, content, resources. Where can people get in touch with you and follow along with your journey and potentially work with you as well?
Our website, welcometonurture.com, is the best way. On our socials is Nurture Cincy. And I also just started a new Birth with Ease on Instagram that I'm building out right now, and would love to support people wherever they are on their journey.
Incredible. We'll add those links in the show notes. Erica, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom. So appreciative of you.
Thank you, Rena. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.